All right, folks, here goes the new moon in Aries video. So the video I did yesterday for Venus in Aries, very applicable. I will put a link to it at the end of this video so you can go jump to it if you feel the need. And, you know, I titled that video Scratching the Itch. I may as well have titled that video Too Darn Hot. It's funny how ideas for titles come up, and I wasn't completely crazy about Scratching the Itch because it's like, you know, it's kind of gross. But Too Darn Hot was probably cuter and righter, but it happened after the fact, so I thought I would mention that to you. Well, here we are with this new moon in Aries, and I'm going to be bold enough to say that with this new moon in Aries yesterday, April the 11th, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 2020 finally came to a close. I'm going to say that. The last of the Pisces, annual Pisces influences, which is the last sign of the year, was behind us. The new year always starts astrologically during the March equinox, whether it is spring or fall for you. And at the time of the equinox, the sun enters Aries. We had Venus entering Aries shortly thereafter. We've had Mercury enter Aries since then. And all these planets have started and have added to the new year being started. But at the same time, we have been under the influence of the Pisces new moon, which occurred in the middle of March till yesterday. And then last evening, Pacific time, 7:30 p.m., we had the new moon in Aries. And while the new year started technically at the time of the equinox, for all intents and purposes, 2020 is finally behind us and 2021 is here. And the new moon starts or creates a 28-day cycle. So it will take this 28-day cycle, 14 days after the new moon, most of you know this, will lead to a full moon in Scorpio. So these are both Mars-ruled lunations. They're both active, I would imagine agitated, somewhat aggressive, somewhat ready to go, somewhat ready to tackle. With the Aries new moon, tackle goals. With the Scorpio full moon 2 weeks from now, tackle relationship truths. And then, of course, 2 weeks after that, we are into the Taurus new moon. Now, the planets, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, will, by the time of the Taurus new moon, of course, have entered Taurus. Venus enters Taurus in 4 days' time, and the Sun is not going to be... The Sun and Mercury actually are not that far behind. They enter Taurus, I think, on the 19th or the 20th. But more on that later. Let's bring this back to the new moon in Aries. It's the start of... It truly is the action... When the new year starts around the March equinox, and when we have, like we did this year, Venus and Mercury follow after the sun enters, but before the new moon, the new year has technically started, but you've been thinking about and preparing for and ending old things and starting new things. And again, it would not be surprising to me at all if in the days before the new moon last week, there were certain things that ended. As I said in my Venus and Aries video, especially relationships and money, and who we are in relationships and whether people are measuring up or not, and who's in the boat with us as we move forward. All of those, all those questions were active. And with Venus in Aries and of course the moon in Aries to create the new moon, would not be surprised if the feminine side of us, the female part of all of us, is in a state of agitation. And with this new moon in Aries, we have the chance now to stop percolating, because since March the 20th, the new year has started, but it's as if the coffee pot has been percolating, and it is time for the coffee to be poured in the cup and for us to get into action. The next 4 weeks really is about taking action towards the goals that are closest to your heart, the purest part of you, the most childlike, the most elemental part of you with the sign of Aries. Very clear, unconditioned, no bullshit. Just, you know, what makes sense, what is at the center of the target, what is that target for you without any external influences, what is your heart's desire, what is your soul's desire. You know, it's not even, it's what is your soul's desire. I'm not going to say heart, because I'm going to let you determine what's going on between your heart and your soul. But what is your soul's desire? What is that bullseye? And to take steps and action to move towards it. Would not be surprising at all if some of those actions have to do with relationships and money and the connection between relationships and the money. The quality of your abundance, as I've said before, is dependent on the quality of your relationships. So that's where Venus comes in. And this new moon is conjunct Venus. So right after the moon went and touched base with Venus, Venus in Aries, yesterday's video, link at the end of this. And with the new moon conjunct Venus, the next 4 weeks are about taking actions towards your soul's goal, primary goals, the bullseye and the target, starting to get into action, getting into action. And a lot of that might have to do with reforming your relational and financial lives. Now, whether this is personal, whether this is professional, and paying attention to, with the new moon in Aries, which is an agitated new moon, and Venus in Aries, which is an agitated placement for Venus, really paying attention to our needs from a relationship perspective. And I don't mean our drive needs, I mean our relational needs. How do we take care of ourselves? Who makes us feel secure? Who makes us feel like they're in it to make us feel the most secure and abundant, and vice versa? Who are the right partners for us? Yeah, Venus is a relationship planet, but the more I think about it, between yesterday and today, Venus is the partnership planet. And again, if the quality of our abundance is dependent on the quality of our relationships, emotionally, psychologically, materially, who are we in partnership with? What is the nature of those partners? Your clients, agents, managers, even certain key friends or relationships, because they help keep you in the right place. Are they a drain of energy, or are they a source of stability? With Venus in Aries all this time, with Mercury in Aries, we've been closing out 2020 under the influence of the Pisces new moon till yesterday. We have been thinking about our goals and what is true for us. We've been paying attention to which relationships are transforming, which are working, which are not. And with this new moon, we get to go after our goals. We get to inaugurate 2021 in action, not in thought, not in evaluation, in action. We get to, in true Aries form, use the discontent of the Aries new moon. And the discontent, discontent can be caused by things that are not working, but discontent can also be caused by an inspiring to-do list. Because the moment you have an inspiring to-do list, you're ready to go and take care of things and create this new reality and feel like I can't be at peace until these 10 things are done. It gives you the energy and the vim and the voom to execute. And often it helps that the clarity of the goal is there, but execution can often come with a certain amount of restlessness. Now, I'm not advocating an excess of Mars, but it is a Mars-ruled moon. Mars, arrow, center of target, make your goals happen. And would not surprise me, as I said, because the new moon is conjunct to Venus, and Venus plays an important role as far as this new moon is concerned on a number of different levels, but first and foremost, because it is the planet that is conjunct the new moon, would not be surprising if relationship and financial issues are part of this execution plan, this to-do list. So have at it, go for it. As I mentioned to you before, yesterday and in my past couple of videos, this in many ways, even though the planetary placements of Venus and the moon are agitated, and even though this is a new moon that is built on discontent, built on irritation, built on stimulus, it's not a peaceful new moon. It is an excited, excitable, irritated, wanting to change, wanting to create, wanting to achieve, identifying what is not working and eliminating it kind of new moon. That's the quality of Aries. Not patient with what is not working. Eager to eliminate irritants. Not tolerant of energy leaks. Not interested in being the good person. The person who can weigh a lot of, carry a lot of burdens for other people or for themselves, or It's not Taurus, it's Aries. It's like, this is irritating me. I'm going to get rid of it. We're going to be done with it. We're going to solve this. Solve, achieve, achieve, achieve. Do. No tolerance for bullshit. No tolerance for unnecessary and complicated and convoluted thought processes. So move, take action, get things done. Now, if you've been experiencing technology issues over the past 3 or 4 weeks, it might be that even since last week, this is my Mercury in Aries video, which I did before the Venus in Aries video, but it wouldn't be surprising with this new moon, you'll continue to be in action to take care of anything Mercury related, vehicles, technology, communication. It gets even more of a boost with this new moon in terms of, because Mercury continues to be in Aries at the time of this new moon, you have the communication planet with you, solving Mercury-related issues, being in communications, networking, all of that can play a part in this. Networking can really play a part with this new moon. Now, this new moon is ruled by Mars because it is in Aries, and Mars is in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So Mercury in Aries and Mars in Gemini are in mutual reception. They are in each other's signs. Mars is in Gemini, which is the home of Mercury. Mercury is in Aries, which is the home of Mars. They have done some sort of Airbnb exchange. Okay, so the planet of communication, transactions, networking is in the sign of action, and the planet of action is in the sign of communications and networking. And with Mercury and with Gemini, we're talking about commutes, and we're talking about the well you live in. We're talking about your community. We're talking about interaction. We're talking about chatter. That's why I'm still talking about networking. We're talking about communication, sales, savviness, the word on the street, knowing how to navigate day-to-day interactions to get information and to influence events, ideally for good reason and for good intentions. Using communication in the community to make things happen, to tap into resources, to network with the right people. And in Aries, it's about, as I've said multiple times in this email already, moving forward to achieve your goals. So the chart for change, the last few lunations have been heavily influenced by, disposited by, ruled by either Neptune in Pisces or Saturn in Aquarius, or Venus, because Uranus it isn't Taurus, it rules Aquarius. So ultimately, prior lunations have been much more preoccupied with longer term change. This one is longer term changes do play a part in this, and I'll come to that in a second. But this one has a different rulership. It has a different feel than any of the lunations that we've had this year. This is in the hands of Mercury and Mars. Cars, vehicles, neighbors, siblings, relatives, Mercury, Gemini. Mars, action, passion, drive, temper, aggression, testosterone, injury, accidents, quarrels, fights, anger, war. Let's keep to the positive side of these if we can, with Mercury, clean, positive intent when it comes to communication, constructive communication, commuting and transactions, and with Mars, constructive action and drive and energy. But this is all operating. Part of the reason why this is so meaningful with Mars in Gemini is that the North Node is in Gemini, and therefore where we're going to experience growth and interaction is in the sign of Gemini. Now, the house that the sign of Gemini occupies in your chart is very important for this. It tells you where Mars is asking you to put a certain amount of drive. You're certainly defending yourself wherever Mars is, but you're also being asked to expend a certain amount of action there, because with the North Node there, your growth, the magic is going to be experienced where the sign of Gemini is in the chart. So if you know your chart and what house that occupies, Gemini occupies, that's very much part of this equation. And the reason why I say that is that there are 3 important aspects that this new moon codifies. One of them is not a happy one. Venus is square Pluto. So the planet of relationships and money is square the planet of death and transformation. And that is a closed square. And this new moon is square Pluto. So again, the theme of transformation, the ending of the old, the beginning of the new, especially when it comes to relationships or financial patterns. There could be something to do with the arts or luxuries or beauty or beautification. I dwelled on some of this, I dwelled on some of this relationships. I dwelled on some of this yesterday. So I'll put, again, the link to Venus in Aries is going to be at the end of this video once I'm done processing it. But cannot ignore that, yes, this new moon is conjunct Venus. The new moon is in Aries, but the new moon is square Pluto, the planet of death and transformation, as is Venus at the time of the new moon. In fact, Venus squares Pluto today. And with Pluto, you have no agency and no control over what these changes are. Something has to end, something has to be burned off. This idea, one astrologer in a book I read described it as the barn being burned down so you could see the moon. Well, there's every possibility and chance that you liked the barn too, and you were attached to the barn too, and the barn provided a certain amount of security and safety. No one likes to see their possessions and their world be burned down. It's nice to see the moon, but that's not what we're going for. There must be a reason why we need to see the moon and experience that clearing. But in the moment, Pluto transits are challenging, are tough. There's no agency. Pluto just comes like death. It's like the death card in the tarot. Whether you're the Hierophant or the Pope or a child or a man or a woman or a pauper or a prince, you're powerless against that particular element. So it is this kind of terrorist wrecking ball planet that slowly goes through a certain part of the chart. And with Venus squaring Pluto and the new moon squaring Pluto, there is a certain resistance to change that is futile. So I would say get that to-do list ready in the purest Aries sense of the Fool card in the Tarot and leaping off the cliff. And get that to-do list ready. Be clear about what the center of your target is. It's about you now. It's a me new moon. Go for it. And if relationships, especially your financial realities, are undergoing a transformation, pay total attention to them and exercise control, not by resisting the change and what is being ripped away from you, but by constructing the new based on what your goals are. What do you want? And if you are clear about what you want, what do you need to do to achieve it? Go for it. As I said, will not surprise me if relationships and finances and the nexus between the two are key. Artistic endeavors, if it applies to you, beautifying endeavors, Venusian endeavors, farming, plants, greenery, the right flow, the right relationships, the right solutions. Not from a place of desire necessarily, but from a place of support and partnership. Making sure that the agitated female side of all of us is soothed. In 3 or 4 days, Venus enters Taurus. So Venus is going to be delighted to be in Taurus. And it's going to be like, all right, now that that is behind me, now let me rejoice in my element of creating stability, creating security, understanding where my resources are, focusing on them, focusing on me in a less agitated way than in the sign of Aries. The Aries influence is going to continue for 4 weeks anyway. So for now, this new moon definitely codifies a death and a transformation from a relationship perspective and agitation. It sits on agitation and propels you forward into 2021. Time for action. The other 2 transits, however, that it codifies are wonderful and positive and action-oriented and are building a long-term foundation. Mars, the planet of action, in Gemini, trines Jupiter in Aquarius. And Saturn in Aquarius trines the North Node, or the true node, in Gemini. So Aquarius and Gemini, remember, Aquarius is active for the next 20 years as a result of the Grand Conjunction in December. That part of your chart, that's the part of the chart where we have to solve what we need to solve in order for our chart to really experience a sense of liberation and forward movement. Where does Aquarius sit in your chart? With Jupiter there, this is a year of an ending a 12-year cycle and starting a 12-year cycle there. Till March 2023, Saturn is going to be there. So you are going to be taught important and key lessons in taking yourself and your potential seriously and being very, very careful and mindful not to fall into the path of least resistance and make the same mistakes that you've been making probably for the last 28 years, if not longer. And Saturn till March 2023 in this part of the chart in Aquarius is going to make you work hard, nose to the grindstone, to manifest, ideally, something really long-lasting and fulfilling by March 2023. Jupiter this year lights the spark. Both these planets, Jupiter lighting the spark, auspicious new beginning, trined by Mars and Gemini. Networking, Gemini-related activities, the word on the street, communication, transaction, action towards them, supports this new beginning in Aquarius. And the true node or the north node trines Saturn. I mean, that is about as forward moving as it gets. So disciplined action can yield magical results based on where it is that Aquarius is in your chart, what house it occupies, and what only you're going to know that based on your chart. Now, a lot of this is playing out because we're talking about Aquarius, because we're talking about Gemini, because we're talking about Aries, but because Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius, is triggered at this new moon too, a lot of this is about social and political change. And whatever that means to us, we're seeing that continue to develop. I'm going to leave that. This, to me, is a much more personal new moon, though, because 2020 is over, folks. And it wouldn't surprise me for the last 2 weeks, something to do with relationship and finances for everybody. 2020 is over. So where's the agitation? Where's the impulse to create the new? Where's the freedom to go for it? Very Arian, very Aries. Where's the impetus to go for it? Create that to-do list, go out and make it happen. And if it has a relationship and financial component, you'll know this reading will resonate. And if the actions have to do with communication, commuting, the community you're part of, the well you live in, networking, sales, resumes, advocating for yourself, making things happen through communication, go for it. Make sure with Mercury and Mars that you allow some time for reflection in your day, even if it's 20-25 minutes, so you can shut everything off. Because when Mercury and Mars are going at it, sometimes all you can see is that to-do list. You may not have the time for the wisdom to bubble up when the mind is shut off. And I think we know what this means. Often we get our deepest insights when we are meditating or focusing on our breath or watching TV, or, if you allow yourself, strangely as a strategy, to even disengage from Mercury and from Mars for even 20-25 minutes a day. Watch TV, keep a notepad with you and see what comes up that allows you to tweak and change and modify your plans. You're going to need to be in action and communication. But what's working, what's not working, it'll energize Mars and Mercury even more, just as it energizes us, by giving them and that side of us a bit of a rest every day. And then for the remaining 23 and a half hours, being in action. Get the right amount of sleep. Forget that I said 23 and a half hours. Okay, so 3 important transits coded here as well. Venus square Pluto, new moon square Pluto, number 1. Jupiter and Mars trining each other, number 2. And Saturn and the North Node trining each other, number 3. Time to get off our butts. And time to reform our lives. Keeping 2021 in mind. And not 2020 in mind anymore. Okay, if you found this video useful, feel free to share it, like it, comment on it, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Press the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified when I do new videos. My contact information is in the description area. Once I'm done uploading the video, you can inquire about rates for readings if you're interested using that email address. I also make an easy-to-read version of your birth chart that tells you which signs are in which houses and what those houses stand for. So if you want to inquire about rates for that, you're welcome to let me know. Don't send me any personal information until you get my rates so you're comfortable about how you want to move forward before you share anything else with me. Okay? We will leave it at that. Happy new moon. Let's go.